The real art is to turn your trauma into the project. Money cannot buy you happiness. You don't have any limit on how much money you can eventually earn. Never think that everything has been already founded, developed, and started.
This is the Education Business Podcast for all founders and business owners in the education sector. This podcast is for you if you have an education business or you're thinking about starting one. That could be tutoring, publishing, holiday clubs. It really doesn't matter. You're in business and you're also in education. But most of all, you're focused on improving outcomes for children in the way you know best, through your business. I'm Claire Riley, co-founder of educational resources website Classroom Secrets, and I'll be sharing how to make your education business bigger, better, and have more impact through my own experiences and also the conversations I have with other founders and business owners in education. The Education Business Podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets, helping you to support your children's learning. Kate, welcome to the Education Business Podcast. Tell us a great story. What has your career looked like? How did it lead you to starting your own business in the education sector?
Hi, Claire, and thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Frankly speaking, I have always been in education business from the very beginning. It was my second year at university when I started selling my private lessons. And this is how I became a private English as a second language teacher. And at some point, I just had so many students, so I had to rent an office and start my own language school. And that was almost more than 15 years ago, actually. And during the COVID, I still had that business. And during the COVID, I realized I wanted to build something more. And I also felt like I didn't have enough challenge anymore, which is very important for any founder, any entrepreneur, to still have the challenge and to still like have the circumstances where you should overcome yourself, where you should explore new geographies, boundaries, and new markets. So this is how I started Amazy.
I love that, overcoming yourself. And it's something that, I mention a lot to other founders, but not everybody has that awareness, particularly when you've just started out. I know I didn't. I started out in business. I had no idea that the main goal of this was to overcome myself. I thought it was about growing a business and getting people to buy my thing that I was creating. How important do you think it is that an entrepreneur has this awareness that actually this is about overcoming yourself again and again and again?
Thank you very much, Claire, for this question. It's a very important one, I think. And in general, it's not even about understanding of the real reason why you decided to start a business or a startup or a company. It's more about feelings because sometimes founders they start a project and they just do not realize what is the real reason behind that. And there can be very different reasons. Some people start business because of the feeling of overcoming themselves and they really need it. Some people start a business because they needed the challenge. Some people start a business because of curiosity and for many, many other reasons. So I wouldn't say that it's necessary and it's a must, to be honest. But on the other side, I would say that every great founder is a deeply traumatized person. And the real art is to turn your trauma into the project, into the real impact that will influence the economics, the people around the world, the countries, the industry. And that's amazing. So I would say, no, it's not important because it can be any other reason. And I would say, if you want to start a business, just start and don't think about reasons, even if you just need money. Because I started my first business when I just needed money, and that was my only motivation to work. And that's initially how it works, right? So if business is profitable, it's a good business. So why not?
So you said you wanted to build something after COVID, and I resonate with that. I'm the same. I love to build. I remember this coaching session I did. It was one of my first ever coaching sessions. And you had to close your eyes and imagine going to another planet with like 5 people. And she said to me, "What's the first thing that you would do?" And I was like, "Well, we'd build." And I realized then going through that session how important building was to me. Building is really important. Building teams, building organizations, building valuable things that are going to be useful to many people in the future. So I resonate with the build, and you had that drive to build. What does success look like for you then in terms of building something?
It's hard to focus on one thing when I think of what success is in business. I would definitely highlight several aspects of it. So, first of all, it's how your product changes the life of people who use your product and how it changes the market, the industry, the whole like world in that field. And of course, financial part is very important, but also do you still have the same people who started working on this project with you, or do you have like all your team is different from what you had early days? Of course, I do understand that at different stages, business would need different people, but for me, it's truly valuable when I realize that, for example, at Amazy, we have the same team like from day one, and it's truly, truly amazing. And I really appreciate that trust and that people follow my vision, that we share the same values. It's really important. And I think it's a huge part of success, having this trust in your team, because as a business, you definitely face lots of challenges and hard times. Another one is also very important. It's the aspect of how happy you are building this business and how much you enjoy the process. If you still enjoy the process, this is a very big aspect of having a successful business and successful company. Because if it makes you happy, if it makes the world happy, if it changes you, if it changes the world, the industry, the lives of your users, and you have your team with you, that's what I really would call a dream story, a successful story, a happy, happy story.
So I asked you what success looks like for you, and you've said happiness, happiness in building the process, which I completely get. Lots of people would say money. My question to you is, can money buy happiness or not?
That's a very good question, and my short answer would be no. Absolutely not. Money cannot buy you happiness. I know that there are many people who are ready to argue with me and ready to prove that I'm wrong. But the point is that it depends on how exactly you earn the money, because different money has different energy. If in the process of earning this money, you brought so many good things to your customers, you changed the world in a good way, you transformed your personality, you have done so much work to transform yourself, to change, to become a better person, to overcome lots of challenges, then yes, absolutely, this money will bring you happiness and this money will share its positive and powerful energy with you. And you will grow with the help of this money. But on the other side, if the money that you earned was easy money, if you lied to someone while trying to earn the money, or if you changed the world for worse when you were trying to earn the money, in that case, I don't think that that money can buy you happiness, because the energy that the money would bring to you would be destroying energy and the very negative energy. So I hope you don't mind some of the spiritual side of that, but I deeply believe in that. And I believe that behind every financial success, there are lots of like things and lots of circumstances. And it's very important to stay an honest person in business, to create transparent process in business, and to earn your money with your mind in peace, you know. So in this case, yes, absolutely money can buy you happiness, but it's not about money separately. It's about the process that brings you this money into your pockets. So that's my answer.
Do you teach children as part of your business offering? Have you considered using resources from Classroom Secrets? At Classroom Secrets, we're always adding new resources for a range of subjects, and we're keen to hear your suggestions for resources too. We know that you didn't go into business to work more hours than you did in the classroom. You went into business to give you freedom. Let us help with that. Visit classroomsecrets.co.uk to sign up. I absolutely do believe in the spiritual side of business, but the concept is new and interesting to me. So I understand the concept that money is energy, but to hear that, it could be different wavelengths, I suppose, of energy or different themes of energy. That is, really interesting concept. I think that was really great to bring up. So talking about spirituality in business then, how much do you think they are linked? How much is how you're growing and developing and understanding yourself as a person? How much is that really linked to business, do you think?
Oh, of course, it's linked a lot. And by growing your business and building your company, it also means that your company is kind of building your personality and your character, because every new deal, every new contract, every new market you enter develops your personality. And you also overcome some of your fears and some of your inner barriers, and something that previously wouldn't let you go further. In many ways, it's a lot about the way you think on how to develop a company, and the way you think of your personal limitations and barriers and things you can do and cannot do. So, as they say, it's all in our head. But again, I don't want to build any illusions about having a company and that it's only everything is in your head. No, of course it's not. But it's a lot about the mindset and the mental attitude to growing a company. For me personally, because I've always been into business, I've never been employed. So it's kind of like my mindset and the way I perceive the world and the way I live in this world in all aspects of that. Building a company, having the spiritual side of that, and building relationships with people, etc. So kind of like the angle you look at it from.
I feel like I should pick up on the fact that you've never been employed and that you've always been self employed. Let's talk about that. So, what do you think you'd feel about being employed now? What would you love about it? And what would you really not like about it?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Well, to be honest, completely, when I was 15, I was employed once for a couple of months during the summer break when I was at school. I was working in a newspaper delivery, if we count that. But other than that, I've never been employed. So I think if you asked me this question like maybe 7 years ago or 10 years ago, I would say that my favorite part of being employed would be the stability and high income. I mean, higher than the income I had 10 years ago, probably, because that time, like 10 years ago, I had my language school and we worked a lot with corporate clients. And I always had those conversations with some of them saying that, oh, you're so lucky, you are employed, you are a top manager. I wish I would be like you. But at some point, I realized that, of course, on one hand, they had that stability that not every founder or entrepreneur has. But at the same time, you can always be fired. Layoffs are happening everywhere, and if you have your own business, you don't have any limit on how much money you can eventually earn. And you can form passive income and different streams of income, etc. So you have kind of like freedom in this case. But on the other side, being employed means that you have like a specific working environment. You have to follow someone's leadership, and whether you like it or not, because your director, your leadership team can be changed at some point, and then if you are not really happy with the new people in your company, you would still need to follow them. And I think like eventually in my case, I just don't have the skill to be employed to work to follow someone's leadership. And that's why, like, for me, I think it would not be possible if I stop my entrepreneurial journey right now and go find a job. I think probably I wouldn't survive there. But who knows? I've never tried, right? But at the same time, working with corporate clients and delivering and selling to companies, I understand that that environment is probably not for me.
It's always freedom. It might be freedom in money, or freedom in health, or freedom in time, or freedom in opportunity, but the answer is always the same, isn't it? So you've been growing and scaling a business. What systems and processes have you put in place that have really been game changers for you through this journey?
It's interesting how many people think that I only need to use this or that tool or to start doing that or to implement this particular process, and then my business will just, boost. But I don't think it works that way. It's actually like my only process and my only philosophy that I follow is just keep doing that, keep working, and that's it. This is very simple and very boring. Nothing very specific. You just do what you gotta do every day. You wake up, you work, and that's it. No magic. It's very simple, but at the same time, it's challenging for many of us, many of the people who want to build their own companies. Because again, we scroll LinkedIn, we see these posts shouting, oh, we raised $1 billion, or we sold the company for $10 billion, or my revenue stream boosted last month, blah, blah, blah. This is all just the noise. And in many ways, in many cases, it has nothing to do with the reality. So you just need to focus on the product that you build it, execute, and deliver, sell, support your customers. And that's all. That's the cycle.
But when you get up in the morning and you just work, what is it you're actually doing? How do you know what to work on? What's the key question that's going through your mind that you're trying to answer? Or what's the key focus that you're trying to deliver on?
So the key focus is always a customer. You talk to customers, you listen to them, and you trying to make their life better as much as you can. That's what you do. As simple as that. You just super focused and you build your product around the needs and pains of your customers. So that's why everything you do is basically about that. So you talk to customers, you do LinkedIn outreach, but this is not only like it's not about the cold outreach and trying to sell them something. It's more about trying to connect to your customers, potential clients, and people from the market and listen to them, let them speak, give them space to share ideas, pains, experience, use cases, etc. So it's all about that. The customer is the center of your business.
You're so right. And as businesses grow, sometimes we can forget about the customer and think it's about what we want rather than what the customer wants. You've always got to be finding out. Can you give a specific example of where a customer said something to you and it changed your direction or it changed something that you created within your product?
Lots of tools actually. And like even the core one, amazing authoring tools were built because customers mentioned that they wanted to have more tools to create interactive materials from scratch or to edit the existing materials on the platform. But it's not only about tools, it's also about the direction of the business and the vision of the company. These conversations with potential customers and current customers and clients and so many insights and like really you have a conversation, then you sleep with this idea, and the next morning you have an amazing direction for your company and the vision for the next 1 or 2 years, where you want to go, where you want to take your company, because you understand that this is what the customers want and this is what they're going to need in the next several years. And this is why they're going to invest in your product.
It's so valuable when we share our stories with other education business owners. So I just want to say a massive thank you for sharing your insights and giving us some food for thought and helping us remember some of the things that we might have forgotten as well. In your mind, what have we not talked about in this conversation that we should have talked about that education business owners should think about, should know?
Thank you for having me and thank you for this wonderful conversation. The only thing I wanted to share as the last one in this episode would be not only for education business owners or people who want to build a business in education sector, but I think in general for anybody who wants to join this special club of entrepreneurs or startup founders would be, never think that it's too late to start, or never think that everything has been already founded, developed, and started. Really, I remember when I started my first business, there were 38 language schools in that street, the same street where my office was and my language school was. And everybody kept saying, like, how are you going to survive, etc. But it doesn't matter. If you love what you do, if you're really passionate about that, if you have this enthusiasm, it doesn't really matter, because all that matters is your energy that you put into your business, how ready you are to work and to have this dedication. That would be my final thought, that I think very important to, to say and to share with the audience. Thank you very much.
38 language schools. Wow, that's a lot. But I actually think what he did is touch on a really important point that we all need to heed right now. I think in a world of AI, it can be very worrisome. We can worry about creating content in the education sector. We can worry about creating code in the education sector. But your attitude when there were 38 schools, underlying that was, I'll find a way. Even though there's all these different language schools, I'll find a way. And I think as entrepreneurs, we need that mindset more than ever to be able to navigate this world of services now becoming free because AI can offer them. So, yeah, I think really, really amazing point. Kate, thank you so much for chatting with me today and everything you've shared. Thank you for listening to the Education Business Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets. To find more resources to grow your business, visit classroomsecrets.co.uk.